ranking number one, page one in Google will not serve you well in AI search. The weighting of frequency is higher than the weighting of ranking. What these companies are doing, they're writing prompts in this way to force AI overviews, but then the underlying data is absolutely incorrect.
You have written about how 32.5% of the AI citations are listicles.
Listicles work phenomenally well. Like, especially if you're focusing on bottom of funnel search terms, listicles are like your 100% best friend. People run their sites behind Cloudflare. By default, you're blocking crawlers.
Welcome back to the Agency Insider Show. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal, founder of Page Traffic. And today we have an episode that could fundamentally change how you think about search visibility in 2026 and beyond. Today's guest is James Berry, CEO and founder of LLM Refs, an AI search analytic platform focused on helping brands understanding and track their visibilities inside large language models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and of course, various others. Now, James has been working at the intersections of SEO, data, and AI, not just talking about AI SEO conceptually, but actually building tools. That's why we brought him on our show just for you guys. In this episode, we're going to talk about AI search reality changes for SEO, why traditional rank tracking tools doesn't cut anymore, and a lot more. James, welcome to the Agency Insider Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here and really excited to chat AI SEO. That's it. Or that's, yes. I suppose that's what we're calling it. Are we calling it AI SEO? Are we calling it AEO, GEO? Like, what's your favorite term?
My favorite term as of now is the AI SEO. I would prefer it because I think it makes sense. But, I don't know, AI SEO. I like LLMs also, but I think search everywhere optimization should include everywhere. But, everybody has their own terms. So Geo and AI SEO seems to be the favorite.
They do seem to be the favorite. I think I saw that we did a bit of digging through like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Reddit as well, and just sort of counted every single mention of GEO, AEO, AI SEO, LLMO as well, and a few different other variations in context talking about the same topic that we were talking about. And it did come out that AI SEO was the most commonly used term. I think what I see from like being heavily involved in Twitter is that AEO is on a rise, GEO's like very heavily used. But when you move out of like the world of chatting to people who live their lives on Twitter, talking about what's the latest update and all of that, AI SEO seems to be the go-to term. So that's what we're trying to align ourselves with.
Okay. Now, before we talk about the AI SEO, I want to start somewhere. Of course, most interview probably don't. Your actual journey, because seems your background is fascinating. You are not just an SEO guy who stumbled upon the AI. I mean, you are a serious engineer with open source credentials. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I'm personally a software dev by background. Built lots of different projects over the years. But have basically worked in growth, software development and growth for the past 8 years or so, and specifically around organic growth, building free tools to bring traffic, and maybe we can dig into it on a bit further of my story if you're interested. But yeah, found a massive opportunity when ChatGPT first came out to capitalize on that traffic, and I guess LLM Refs was born out the back of it. So yeah.
So what was the first moment where you realized that AI search wasn't just a feature, but a fundamental shift?
I guess it's a great question. Look, I think I remember chatting to my mum, and I know this is the classic, everybody will say this, but she was trying to book a holiday somewhere, and she was on Perplexity, and she'd somehow got some hotel recommendations off Perplexity. And I think this was like really early on. Like I knew of Perplexity, but maybe I hadn't even used it at this point. And I was like, what is this? Like, how is my mum? Like, she's like, I want sun, I want like, to be this far away from the beach, find me a location, find me a place to stay. And she ended up booking straight off this search. I think she did a couple of searches. So for me, that was like a real eye-opening moment. Look, there's there's not only like traffic opportunity here, but like the conversion rate on that will be significantly higher than perusing hundreds of different sites and then picking one.
Right. So then what I mean, what happened next? So do you decided to dive into it right away, or how does LLM Ref was born?
Sure, yeah. So the story of myself. So I worked with a couple of friends of mine, great founders, Tim and Saba, of a company called Veed.io. And they've been one of the fastest growing companies in terms of pure play organic SEO growth. They're an online video editor moving into the space of AI. It's a fantastic company, a fantastic product. And they did nearly no paid advertising. It was all through building free tools, building landing pages that answered user search intent. And what we found is that when ChatGPT first started coming out, we were able to look at the traffic that was coming through, and it was fairly substantial. Outside of that as well, we had a play with a custom GPT that did really, really well when the GPT store came out, which I know was a little bit of a flop overall, but we found a lot of success from that and brought in, I'm not going to share their figures, but many millions of users via that GPT, just getting traffic through to the Veed site. Yeah.
Okay, and this was in which year?
This was last year. This was and I think it's, God, I can't even remember the years now. This year has moved so fast. So I think we launched last year, but I think when because to start with, that GPT store was only for paid users, so conversion rates were really good, but the numbers were lower. But when the GPT store opened up for every user, then suddenly there became a huge opportunity for us. I think I don't know if like how much you're following the current ChatGPT new app store that I think got released today, today as we're recording this as well. Potentially that's going to be a huge opportunity as well for these businesses.
So when you built your custom GPT, which said bought you, what exactly does GPT was doing?
Yeah, so this was the difficulty with GPTs, right? Because effectively they were like just custom prompt wrappers. You know, if you saw a lot of them, they were like copywriting tools. You'd paste your thing in, it would align it with your brand guidelines. But they had this functionality to add actions, which was effectively an open API spec that you would add to your GPT, and it would be able to make auxiliary calls outside of OpenAI, outside of ChatGPT. And what we had was a tool called Veed Text to Video, which was one of the first tools that allowed you to go from idea or prompt to full 30-second video that's ready to share on social. And that's what we built, right? It was, you would jump into the ChatGPT experience, you would do all of your research, you would write your script, and you'd say, yep, I want to make a video out of this. It would get sent off to Veed, and we would create that video for you. So it was a really like wow moment back you know, a year ago. Yeah. Okay.
Now, of course, you have worked closely with technical SEO and data. Now, do you think that the background is essential for understanding AI SEO?
I think so. Let me ask you a question there. Are you digging into like to understand it to, you know, sell to a client, or to understand it to found a company, or just
I would say both. So because most of my audience is the agency owners or people who are working in agencies. That's what the Agency Insider Show is about. So I'm just thinking, when people think AI SEO, is it more technical, which goes, or is it something different than what SEO is? I mean, of course, I know the answer, but just for my audience at large, what do you think that background, any sort of technical SEO or data background, is essential to understand the AI SEO?
Yeah, look, I think with AI SEO, there's a whole load of new concepts, right? But there's also a lot of existing concepts that still lay true. This whole thing of like SEO is dead, I don't buy into this at all, right? So I think that there are a few different concepts, like the idea of tracking your traffic now is like very, very different. You know, you're now tracking server crawler logs as opposed to tracking what is the referrer that somebody's like GA calls when they land on my webpage. So I think there's a few like concepts there that change. I also think there's like a change in how you track visibility as well. It is like one of the most, I mean, full of misinformation and maybe over complexities where required. But I think, one of the things that we're trying to do, just to summarize all of that one of the things that we're trying to do at LLM Refs is make AI search really, really easy. Look, we've had SEOs working with Google search, typing in their keyword, you do your 2 to 3 word keyword and you get a result. And we've been working with this for like 20 years. You click the first blue link, if not, you go to the second one, etc. Right? Everybody knows how to do this. Now, in AI search, things have changed. Suddenly search is conversational, it's way more heavily personalized. But what we're doing is we're trying to keep the same concept of keywords instead of prompts across our platform. So that's when you come to LLM Refs, it's our differentiation with the rest of the tools out there, of which there are hundreds now. You work with keywords. So that makes it really, really easy for marketing teams to get started off the ground.
Okay. Now, LLM Refs has been intentionally bootstrapped when competitors like Profound, Peak AI have raised venture capitals. Now, I'm sure that's a deliberate choice. So what's the strategic thinking behind staying bootstrapped, and what does that mean for how you are building this product?
Yeah, look, I chat to lots of people about this. My background is working in bootstrap companies. I think that's the best way to build a sustainable company. I think if you look at, what's the best, in my eyes, what's the best SEO company out there? In my eyes, it's Ahrefs. And Ahrefs have done $100 million in revenue a year, completely bootstrapped as well. They've created this perfect model of creating like a lot of educational content, putting so much value out there that they've just established themselves, in my eyes, as the leader in the SEO space, and haven't needed to raise that extra cash. The other thing that I would say, like the cash can either help you hire more, develop the product faster, or scale your customer acquisition.
Right.
Or I guess the other one is like lower all of your costs. If you look at LLM Refs versus a lot of the other tools out there, the last time I checked, how we benchmark ourselves in terms of our rank tracking product, this is on AI responses analyzed. So as I said, we track keywords, Profound, Peak, whoever are tracking prompts. But if you look at the underlying thing that comes across all of us is AI responses analyzed. Last time I looked, I was even trying to just find this little spreadsheet. I think we came out as like 18 times cheaper than Profound, 11 times cheaper than Peak, which tells me that their venture capital fund is going straight into Google ads, going straight into hiring sales consultants to go and close massive enterprise deals, when actually the target audience we're going after are probably agencies more than anything else, although we work with a lot of in-house brands who are actually looking for like great data quality without having to commit to massive spend.
Okay, so obviously the next question, how do you compete against well-funded competitors while staying lean? I mean, marketing, of course, all of this has, what is your customer acquisition strategy?
Well, I guess it's a great question, and this is like an ever-changing strategy, I suppose. What's working really well for us at the moment is just being out there publishing educational content and trying to be at the forefront of like understanding what AI search is. AI search is changing all the time, like literally all the time. The grounding sources are changing. It's like it's the most volatile search has ever been. And we're trying to be at the front of that and be one of the voices that can explain it and sort of understand when things change, why they change, and how you can stay on top of it. So I think that's like our core movement is just being in touch with the people who know what they're talking about. And yeah, just sort of getting our name out there.
So how many paid subscribers you have, if you wish some idea?
It's not something that we publicly share. I'm sure I could do it off camera, but it's not something we share publicly.
Okay, but you are profitable.
We're profitable. We've got a team. We've got 3 full-time. So we're going well.
Okay. Now, most of the time you saw a lot of studies yesterday also came about that there is a difference in responses when it comes to why API and why not normal search. So what exactly is LLM Ref? Is it based on the API calls making, or how?
It is absolutely not based on API calls. So yeah, so I think most of the good ones out there now are all based on real UI responses. That's exactly the same with us across the board. We track 10 different AI search engines. I think that's like on the top level of what people are tracking at this moment in time. And it's all based on real browser automation of real conversations. I think there was a thing where there's like an 18% overlap between what you're tracking in the API and the UIs. That's specifically in ChatGPT. So it's the data quality is absolutely dire. The other thing that I just want to be really clear on as well is data quality is everything for us. It's why our clients like us. There are a few funny things I also see constantly around Twitter where people look into their Google Search Console and they see these weird queries, which is like, give me an overview for, and then it looks like a prompt, like a long tail prompt. What these companies are doing, some of them, not naming names, but they're, in order to like save themselves costs, they're writing prompts in this way to force AI overviews. Because when you go to a Google search, it doesn't always give you an AI overview, but you can sort of force them in this way. But then the underlying data is absolutely incorrect. So we are crawling continuously to see if we can find an AI overview that is triggered, and fronting all of the costs that it takes to do such a thing, not any of these crazy hacks. Data quality is key here.
Okay. Now, how do you technically approach tracking brand presence across tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Gemini?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we do differently again, or maybe not differently, there's hundreds of different tools here, but I've tried most of the tools, right? And how often have you logged into the tool, you've set up your domain, and it tells you have 80% brand visibility. And then I go to a different tool and it goes, you've got 30%. And then I go to another one, it goes, you've got like 256. It just gives you like some magic arbitrary number. And I don't know where it's come from. I don't trust it because they've all got different numbers. It just doesn't make sense to me. So with us, we will never give you a brand visibility like magic number, right? How we do our rankings is we do it purely on competitor benchmarking, right? So what we do is we look at the responses, we analyze everybody who's been mentioned, and we measure them on 2 different metrics. Now, the first one of those is your share of voice. So you can be looked at as like a mention rate. So when I look at a prompt or a keyword, which when we talk, maybe we should dig into keywords in a second, but when I talk about keyword, I'm talking about a set, like a group of prompts. When I look at that keyword, I can say with absolute confidence that for this search engine, for this keyword topic, this brand will be mentioned in 27% of responses or whatever it might be. The second one we look at is your position in search, which is like the average order that your brand appears in over time. Now, that is less important. So how we do is we weight these 2 things together and we create this hidden score that's then able to benchmark yourself against your competitors.
Okay. And when you are doing all this, so I understand you said that how your tool works is it takes keywords in prompts, because I've seen most of the tool and I find very odd, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Even before you get into the prompts, they give you the competitors. And I find it very odd because I believe the competitors are not what I think. Competitors are which are occurring in prompts. So I think, so when somebody says the competition first, prompt later, I think that's not how it should work. So what is your take on that?
I completely agree. Like, how often have you seen a brand do amazingly well in AI search that isn't even ranking on the first page of Google? It happens all the time, right? Like, I completely agree. It should not be competitor first. That's not how we set up our prompts. So in LLM Refs, as I said, When you come to our tool, you set up keywords, not prompts, right? And you can think of this the same way you think of your core keywords in SEO. So, a lot of our clients will come in, set up their account, and they can import them straight in from Google Search Console, or you can bring it over from your keyword lists in whatever other traditional SEO tool you have. Yeah, cool. And what we do there is we then generate the prompts for you based on real human conversations with AI chatbots, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So, and second thing is when people talk about sentiments, I think it's an overblown thing. I mean, again, I might be wrong, but I don't see negative sentiments as a thing, because how would you have a negative sentiment when I'm asking about what is the top? I mean, any LLM is not going to give me answers and say, okay, these are the best companies, but let me give you the worst as well. So I think that doesn't even make sense to have tracking as a negative sentiment. I see sentiments is something which is quite overrated. What is your take on that?
Again, I feel like we're very aligned here in plenty of things. I agree that sentiment is not something, it's on our roadmap, but it's not something that we're prioritizing. What I think is more important is misinformation and fact checking, right? With sentiment, in AI responses, you're either going to be spoken about overwhelmingly positively because there's some sort of personalization getting involved where it knows you work at the brand already or something like that, or it's going to be very neutral. It's very unlikely, unless you've specifically written a prompt in a way that it comes through and it says, the worst podcast is the Agency Insider Show. It's just gonna be very neutral about it. On the flip side, there is a big issue with misinformation, right? If I was asking, find me a podcast that is, an hour long or something like that about SEO for agencies, then if it did not bring you up because it believed that your brand was, only producing 10-minute clips or something for YouTube, then that's an issue. So this is what we're prioritizing, is tracking where are things going wrong. And a good example is a tire company I've worked with recently that would, they were told their tires were for motorcycles or something like that when this new tire was made for a truck. It was wildly wrong, and it was they've unpicked it now, but that is a more damaging thing that we should be focusing on over sentiment.
Okay. Now, so from what you are seeing in real data, so what does LLM visibility inside? What does visibility inside LLM actually look like? Is it just the citations, mentions, recommendations, or something else entirely?
So I think it goes into a few different angles here. We measure visibility in two ways. So firstly is brands getting mentioned in the response, and the second one is having a citation, which is actually a clickable link, right? What's less important is if you can get your content in the sources but not cited. You really either want to have a link or you want to have an actual mention in there. So they are the core things that we also can tell you whether you're getting sourced, because if you're already getting sourced, then you've got a decent opportunity to become a citation. But I wouldn't say that on its own is a valuable thing you should be measuring.
Okay. Now, one thing I've also find interesting is that LLM visibility isn't static. So the thing is, the same prompt can return different brands over different time. So how does LLM Ref handles this variability, or how do you go about fixing this problem?
Yeah, so it's a really great question. LLMs are probabilistic, non-deterministic. You ask the same question twice, they give you different answers both times. And look, it's a major issue of a lot of the tools that I try. You've got this approach where you just rerun the same prompt over and over and over, which is part of our method. But what we do, seeing as our method is based around keywords, if I can give you, say, 10 prompts underneath each keyword, I'm able to then analyze those across, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever it might be, and then only rerun the ones that I need to remove any noise so that we can find statistical significance for your brand's AI visibility.
Okay, so what does that mean? I mean, so for a brand, what does exactly it means if they have to track their mentions? I mean, because they are changing. So how does a brand should they be? So my question is, you track rankings, you can track rankings daily, they shift, but here what is happening is the mentions can change and they can change every few minutes. So what does brand take from this?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, well, the key thing is, I know this is a horrible plug for myself and all of my competitors, but you're going to need a third-party tool here to help you. You know, you can't just go straight into ChatGPT and run this hundreds of times. There are tools that are specifically built to solve this problem for you, which is running these things multiple times to understand what are the mentions, what are the citations, and where can you find opportunities. Now, I think the core thing here as well to look at is you should be tracking a broad range of prompts. Specifically, you should be tracking prompts that are basically saying exactly the same thing in different ways, because they can have wildly different answers as well. Another example of somebody I worked with recently is in building a link building agency, and they had come from one of our competitors, one of the big ones that we've already mentioned today. And they said, oh, I have this amazing search visibility. And they came to our tool, and because we generate prompts based on real user conversations, they said something's not right. You know, my visibility is far lower in your tool than it is over in this other tool. And the reason is that they were searching for the word, I think it was like backlink agency or something like that. And actually real user intent was searching for link building agency. And their visibility, I think they were in second for backlink agency and then 16th in link building agency. So getting a broad range of prompts that are being asked by real users in AI search would be my recommendation. But if you can't achieve that, then just quantity, because the more you're searching, the better data quality you're going to get out of that as well.
And when people talk about different stages, tofu, mofu, bofu, which one do you, because I know the tofu will not generate anything. So for our clients, when they comes to visibility, I say tofu is not going to give you anything. You're just asking question. They might be grounded queries. So what is your take on this? Which type of funnel is good to track and is good for brands to follow?
I think, to be honest, I'm actually not going to make the call on any brand's behalf. I think it's when you start making calls like that, look, I'm going to be wrong for some industries. It depends on your industry. It depends on the keyword or sector that you're going after. What I will say is that my background is in revenue-driven SEO. So they are the keywords, they are the search terms that I personally am going after. And that's where I think, AI search excels as well. We know that when people manage to find that mention or get that click, that their conversion rates are going to be a lot higher, from at least what we've seen. So that's bottom of funnel is where I'm investing. But again, there's lots of strategies. Yeah.
Okay, now let's shift gear to the practical side. Our audience, as I said, is agency owners and marketers who are serving clients right now. They have heard the high-level stories about AI search, but they need to know, how do I actually do this tomorrow? So if an SEO agency wants to add AI visibility optimization as a new service line tomorrow, how do you recommend they structure it? And what would the deliverables look like? And how should they price it relative to the traditional SEO service?
Again, I don't run an SEO agency, so I don't think I'm the best person to answer that. I think it's down to you. Again, it's down to your clients. It's down to, what you think works best for you. I have had a conversation multiple times, and maybe I'm going to go on to talk about another question that we might have in a second, about what would be like, how would you sell this thing, right? Let's say you go to a client and you say, I've now got this new...
How to sell, I say, what should be the deliverables look like?
Sure. In terms of deliverables, I think, the key thing is revenue, right? How can you attribute revenue to search? And I think there's a really hard missing piece at the moment with tracking, where you can watch server logs and you can say, right, I got a citation here, or I got sourced here at least, which means, you know, then there was a bit of traffic that came through, but there's no direct like UTM parameters or referrers that you can follow or anything like that. What we actually see is when brands start investing heavily in their GEO, that they get this hidden brand uplift from just Google organic search. You know, if your company, if you're brand B and you're just chilling, and then you start investing in like, how can I optimize myself for specifically ChatGPT? What you'll find is your brand B direct search in Google will lift. So my answer would be figuring out whatever that is and somehow mapping back, having a system for doing this.
Okay. And of course, the reason why I'm asking is that traditional SEO has been all ranking, position, and optimizing content, building backlinks. Now, AI search doesn't do most of these things. So how should agencies rethink reporting when they start using tools like LLM Ref? And what KPIs actually matters now when it comes to the LLMs?
I think the KPI, like the core KPIs are share of voice, ranking, citations, right? Like where are the citations going to? Are they going to me? Are they going to my high value pages? So I think they're what you should be tracking. I think in terms of the rest, not being an agency founder, I think it would be unfair for me to make decisions on people. I don't want people to make decisions based on my experience, which isn't in running agencies. You know, I build analytics software for AI search engines. Yeah.
Okay, and now, so let's talk about LLMs understands brands. So what signals do you believe matter most for shaping AI perception?
So for shaping AI perception, what signals matter the most? Well, I guess it's a great question. So, well, can you break that down for me specifically? Yeah. What we're asking?
So my question is that how does for LLMs understands brand in terms of how important is consistency, entity, clarity? How does what exactly matters when you have to shape a brand perception in AI?
Sure. Okay, cool. Well, I guess, yeah, that's a great question. Look, we know now that AI search is a game of two halves, right? So your first half is, can you get into the actual underlying model's training data so that when the next version of Gemini or whatever it is going to be trained, you can ask it completely offline, just via an API or something. You can say, what is brand X, and it will tell you all about it, and it will speak as positively as it possibly can about the brand, including all of the features you've got, you know, etc., etc. So that's the first half, right? The second half is now what we're learning around search grounding. So this is now when you're using ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is, Perplexity, they're not only just making a search into their own brain, they're actually making these they're doing these search grounding to get true information, live information from the web. And how that works is actually you take the model itself and you say, can you break down this big old 7-sentence prompt into 1 to 5 different fan out queries, is what we call them. And these are like long tail traditional SEO keywords, right? So let's say it's got I've got my 7-sentence prompt. It breaks it down into 5 different sub queries. Each of those queries is then going to be sent off to some sort of search grounding service. So traditionally for Google, obviously that was going to be Google themselves. With ChatGPT, it seems to be a little bit of a mixture depending on what account and market you're based in between Bing and Google. Perplexity seem to have their own search index, and to be honest, we've seen recently that ChatGPT have got their own index as well. So what that does is it will return a whole series of results. So that will be, say 100 results from Google for each search query. So now we've got 500 results with a title, a slug, and a meta description. And then the model can choose right, out of this list, if I need more information, which of these pages do I want to look into to then understand more about the problem? So this is where you're going to find that actually there's a whole load of pages that are getting cited very heavily that aren't making it onto page one of Google, just because that they're in that set, and then a model is more heavily weighting them. And again, that then leans back into how are you getting into the original training data set so that you are the trustworthy source that it picks up, right? So these are the core things that shape it. We've also seen recent experiments from ChatGPT around Wikidata being a fantastic source for search grounding as well. Especially what I'm seeing is if your brand name is like a non-generic word and it's the underlying phrase of the service that you're offering, AI, because it's this semantic search, it really struggles to pull out whether that's a brand name or whether that's like you just repeating the phrase. So it uses Wikidata, the underlying Wikidata entry, to be able to pull out what exactly is a brand and what is not as well.
Okay.
Sorry, does that answer your question there? Is there anything we want to dig into?
Yes, I have a whole segment on this, so I'm going to dig more into it now.
Okay, cool.
So my next question is, how important are consistency, entity clarity, and factual reinforcement across the web?
Absolutely, mega important. So how important is clarity? Clarity is everything. If we look at the most recent, I believe it was Prasanna Madhavan, who's one of the principal PMs at Microsoft, who run Bing. He wrote a whole AI optimization guidelines masterclass, and we've summarized it down into we've got a blog post summarizing down sort of the key points here. And one of the key things here is absolute clarity, and not over embellishing the facts that you have about your brand. It's untrustworthy to AI for you to say, I am the leading X, Y, and Z. What's more trustworthy is to say, I have had X years experience in X, Y, and Z and worked with clients like whoever. And that builds your, it goes back to the whole traditional Google EEAT stuff. That builds your experience, your authority, and your trust. And it's more likely to get cited in AI search.
Let's talk about how we can further influence these LLM models. So what role do PR, citations, Reddit, and community content plays in training or influencing these AI models?
Yeah, look, I think there's two parts to that. The first one is obviously getting into training data. If you're cited by like publishers with high authority and high trust, it's going to weight your brand more heavily compared to your competitors. The second part is actually we go back to those that search grounding process of now we've got 500 different results because of roughly speaking. Now, because the model is actually looking at all of these different results to then try and find an answer, the more of those results that your brand is appearing in, the more trustworthy it is to the answer. So this is where I say to people that actually ranking in number one, like ranking number one, page one in Google, and not having any other one of the results talking about your brand will not serve you well in AI search in the same way it would traditional search. What would work better is having number 2, number 3, number 10, number 15, 50, all talking about you, which will then lift you to the top. The weighting of frequency is higher than the weighting of ranking in search grounding.
Yeah, I agree on that part. Now, do you think brand will eventually optimize content specifically for LLM consumption, or are they doing it right now?
I can tell you they're doing it already. They're doing it already. Yeah, I think it's already started. I think that the key thing is you're still writing for humans. If you're getting humans onto that page, they're the only ones who are paying you, right? Unless Cloudflare have their way, AI is not purchasing your content. So I think that's like the key thing. But the second thing is we're shifting away from a world where a user chooses what they view. Like if you think of the TikTok algorithm, right? I'm just served content without even having any choice in it at all, and it's just learning my preference and personalizing my feed over time. And I think in a potentially sad way, what we need to do now as SEOs is optimize our content for those algorithms as well, which is just effectively in our world, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and all of these other LLMs.
Okay, now, so you have written about how 32.5% of the AI citations are listicles.
Listicles work phenomenally well. Like, especially, so I guess the other thing to look at here is like, if you're focusing on bottom of funnel search terms, listicles are like your 100% best friend. They're really, really great for AI search, because the first thing is they're super easy to scan. Like if if somebody's searching what is the best whatever, it goes, does the search grounding, it finds this page will tell you what exactly the best ones are. It opens the page, it goes H2 number 1 is this, H2 number 2 is this. It's really easy for AI to read, and I wonder, this is sort of, I'll throw this back at you to see if you think the same, if these will be what's the right word, if these will be, like, maybe not penalized, but the weighting of listicles will be reduced inside AI search by OpenAI, by Google, as time goes on, because these seem to be a real hack at the moment in time.
I agree with you. Personal confession, we have done it for our brand quite a lot, and it works. But I believe we are just running on a borrowed time on this. Maybe I think I will give it maybe 3 or maximum 6 months when this thing will stop working. But
I think that's it. I think it's interesting that, like, Google have so much control over search, and I think I haven't seen OpenAI have their moment yet where they've done their first helpful content update. So I think they're still figuring things out. But the moment that they are
immediately in the pressure because of Gemini 3, you know how much they are in the pressure. So I think that will be the last thing in their mind as of now, because it's just
true. Yeah, I think it is true. I wouldn't bet against OpenAI though. That's my I could be wrong. We'll see in 6 months' time. But I think, especially with consumer level, like users, I think it's really hard to shake the default. Like it happens, right? Like Yahoo was once big and then Google took over. But I do think it's going to take a lot of beating for OpenAI to lose their monopoly at this point.
Now, you specifically when you did that 32.5% of AI citation, my question is that a follow-up question is there a content audit framework you use to identify the highest opportunity pages to optimize first if we have to, or you don't have anything like that?
So we don't have automated tools. So the core thing in terms of LLMrefs is what we do is we give you the signals and signposts to build your own effective AI search strategy. So what I have seen in other tools as well is when they give you like recommendations, do this and this will happen. Because AI search is so new, things are constantly changing, and there's no real, there are things that work, but there's no real playbook yet. I could be right, but I'm probably only going to be right 1 out of 100 times, or 1 out of 30, 40 times. At which point, if what I tell you to do doesn't work, you're not going to trust my platform and you're going to go elsewhere. So what I believe is SEOs, we are smart people. We can figure it out. Every industry is different. Every keyword is different. Every strategy is very different. But if we can give you all of the data to make the correct decisions, that is where the value add comes from. Now, in terms of specifically to answer your question around like content auditing, I think the key is to look at what is already ranking in AI search. So for your key phrase, your topic, keyword, prompt, whatever, however you want to do it, go and look at what are the citations that are there. What are my competitors? Like, what content is my competitor already doing really well with? And go and read that content and go and copy that framework. Go and learn something from them. Like, maybe not directly copy it verbatim one for one, but take inspiration from it. Look at what works really well for them and look at how you can build a piece of content that is better than what they've already produced.
Okay. Now, of course, you track 10 plus AI search engines, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google, AI Overview, Claude, Gemini, etc. Each has different biases. For an agency with limited resources, which platform should they prioritize first, and how different does the optimization strategy needs to be for each?
It's a great question. I think, when I chat to everybody, I think there are really only two that come up time and time again, like on the grand scheme of things. It is ChatGPT, because that probably, in terms of the pure play LLMs, it's over 80% of market share. And the second one is Google AI Overviews, which is just, that probably dwarfs everything else because they're everywhere now. So I think they're the two key ones you want to be looking into. That being said, there are clients who are really hot on Perplexity as well. Depending on what industry you're in, conversion rates through Perplexity can be phenomenal, especially for SaaS plays. So if you're in that world, then take a look.
Okay. Now, let's get a little technical for a moment. Can you walk us through the must-have technical setup? LLM.txt, controversial, but I agree there is no harm in downside in implementing it. Crawlability consideration, schema markup. So what's the priority order and what mistakes do you see most often?
I think we're effectively getting straight into this is where AI SEO and SEO are in bed together, quite literally, right? So I think, the key thing is LLM's text. I recommend setting it up. It's not a priority, but when you've done everything else, you've already audited all of your content, you're already doing fantastically. Spend an hour or two and go and get one of them set up. And with us, you can automate this as well. But just do not prioritize LLM's text and think, if I create one of these, my visibility is going to go through the roof, because maybe that will happen in the future. At this point, it's just not important. So if I'm thinking of like technical SEO setup, I think you've sort of outlined the key things here. Number one, for AI search, you need to make sure your content is crawlable, right? There is a number of companies that I've chatted to who we've said, oh, your content isn't crawlable, and they go, that can't be right, because a recent client said they found us via ChatGPT. Now, that may be true, but what the issue is they've found them via a third-party article or a third-party source or something like that. You can never get your own content cited if you're blocking AI crawlers. And the first thing to do is, if you're a Cloudflare user, go and check out whether there's two tabs to allow robots.txt to not block crawlers, and then just to allow crawlers as well. We recommend turning those off. You may, if you're a large publisher, you may make another decision, and that's totally fine. So that's, so crawlability, and we've got free tools to check if your site is crawlable as well, and what AI can understand. I think the second one is server-side rendering. With Google, they've done, part of their moat really is the fact that they're able to crawl a page, run the JavaScript, get all of the content out of it, and add it into their search index. In AI search, that does not happen at all. Even if we're using the search grounding, by the time that the page, the AI crawler comes back to crawl that page in real time and pull data out of the page content, they're just not going to see anything. So you need to be doing server-side rendering. If you're not, all the WordPress sites and all of that will already be set up there, but just one to keep in mind. And then I guess your final one as well is getting your schema markups lined up. It's a traditional SEO strategy. You should be doing it anyway. But if you've not, that's super, super highly important, especially getting FAQ schemas set up is what I find work really well. Because when people are typing verbatim questions and those queries get split up, the more FAQ schemas you've got in there, the more chance you are to get verbatim a chunk of text lifted straight into an AI overview or something like that.
Okay. Now, you also have built an AI crawlability checker tool with LLM Refs. So what are the most common issues it surfaces that the site owners don't realize are blocking AI visibility?
I'll tell you, 100% the most common one. And I get people who email me about this every day going, oh, something's wrong. It says it can't crawl it. It's the Cloudflare block. People run their sites behind Cloudflare, and there was Cloudflare a few months ago flicked a switch that basically said, by default, you're blocking crawlers. And it's just one to check out. It's one, like, we have a blog post about why you may or may not want to allow them in, but that's the most common thing that we see coming up. The second side of that is stuff that's blocked by JavaScript. So for example, I'm thinking pricing grids. You know, if you're selling say credits, or like a, you know, a tiered system, and you have like a nice pricing slider, AI obviously can't move the pricing slider, so it only knows the initial one that it's set on and doesn't know the rest of them. And what you'll find is when somebody's doing research around, like, maybe evaluating two problems, two services, and asking about pricing, which is obviously a really core thing that someone's going to be researching before they make a purchase, it'll end up pulling the pricing information off some other source that is unowned media by you. And in a lot of cases, we see that to be like competitor pages. So if you're going, what's the best between this service and this service, and it can't pull any data from your page, it's going to go for their comparison page, where they've said horrible things about you, I'm sure, that are not quite true.
So what you are saying is each of the brands should just not do AI crawlability and LLM text and schema, but should also put one or the other comparison page with the competitors.
I mean, adding to Listicles, comparison pages do phenomenally well. Like bottom of funnel, ready, like, to buy users, they come up all the time. And I think, you know, we've even personally had success with this, where somebody is about to purchase another tool and they go, what are the alternatives to this tool? And, you know, you can get lifted, and then suddenly it's like, you know, they're aware of tools that didn't exist before, and suddenly you're in the conversation. So yeah, 100% I'd prioritize comparison pages, especially if you've got large, like, monopoly competitors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's one misconception about optimizing for AI that you strongly disagree with?
Oh, it's a good question. There is actually a few of them out there. I think the whole idea that AI search and SEO are different, I disagree with. But I also think the idea that AI search and SEO are the same, I disagree with. I think they are two cousins that are packaged quite differently. And I think it will be interesting to see what happens with, like, traditional Google search over time. Like, they might actually phase out having like a results page in many years into the future. But I think at this time, it's something that you need to be investing in on both sides, especially as the growth in AI search is on the way up. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes. Now we come to the last segments of our show, the future of SEO agencies in an AI world. So for agencies, client relationship reporting is everything. Now, how should agency be structuring AI visibility report, and what metrics matter most, and how do you connect AI citations to actual business outcomes like traffic and revenue?
Yeah, good question. I think, you know, ranking is the key thing. Your clients want to know whether they're ranking higher or lower than some competitor. Share of voice is also a super important one. They want to know in how many of those responses that talk around prompts that are important to them, they're getting mentioned in. I think the second part here is all of the citations, like how often are they getting links that are clickable that take them out to the site. You can track that in two ways. The first one is actually tracking when somebody clicks a link from, say, ChatGPT, AI mode, whatever it is, through, it will come with a normal referrer link that you can find in your GA, right? The problem is you've then got links that are untrackable. So for example, how many times have you gone into AI search, you've asked a question and it gives you a brand name without a link next to it? The next thing you're going to do is you're then going to type into Google brand name and click the first one. So what I would do is probably run like a 3-month benchmark across their traditional non-organic search, just to understand where it's going, what the current growth rate is, and then for your next period, how has that changed over time?
Okay. And All right. So with that, we come to the end of our show. And James, this has been a fantastic conversation. I know a lot of people have misconceptions about LLM tools and how they run it. And I think some of those get cleared by the way LLM Refs works. I might have taken a trial, and I love the free tools which you offer. And I would encourage my audience to go out and try free. It doesn't cost a dime. So I would definitely recommend that. And I really appreciate how practical approach you are giving for the AI SEO. So it's not something fluff you have. So that's especially in a space where it's, so, you know, these AI tools space is actually full of more speculation than the real thing. So I thank you for that. And thank you for giving your time today.
No, my absolute pleasure. I loved having a conversation. And to be honest with you, this is what myself and the team, I dream about this stuff. So I love chatting AI SEO. I'd love to chat with anyone who fancies it at any time.
Right.
And so same with the rest of the team. So reach out and come say hi.
Right. And for everyone listening, we will link to the James work, LLM, his tools and everything, and talk and resources in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share it with your team, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep testing, keep measuring, and keep adapting to where search is really going. Thank you.